Okay, so we do have a few short answer multiple choice questions you do need to do for homework. This is due by week 2 on the Tuesday. So we won't be having class in week 1 till the Friday, periods 3 and 4. And then we'll have class Monday, period 1, Tuesday, period 5 and 6. Okay, so let's get started. So we have multiple choice questions. These are from 2013 to 2018 with the current syllabus from page 52 of your booklet. Now the short answer questions, there's only one from 2012 and that's on page 61. Okay, so let's get started. I'll have the list for you, and that is on Google Classroom. Okay, so you really don't have many excuses. So let's get started. Okay, 2012, this is all on role influences. We're going to pick selected questions. So we're going to start with 2013 question 10. Which of the following would improve the financial position of a business? So we need to go back into our notes. What is better? What is worse? So obviously we do have a few resources. What I do encourage you to use though is the Google Classroom document that we have. Okay, hopefully this uploads soon. And that's a worksheet table that you should have filled out as we went along with the video or in class in week 10. Okay, so we're going to get started with 2013 question 10. And this question is asking which of the following would improve the financial position of a business. Okay, so we're going to figure out what the objectives we're looking at, which ratios, and what's better and what's worse. So current ratio is our first one, and that's looking at liquidity. Okay, so I'm going to note this down. And you should have this all in the table you've made from the worksheet of Google Classroom what we did in class. So current ratio equals liquidity. And this represents our current assets, which are all the things that we can turn into money quickly in the next 12 months. So current assets include our stock, if we sell it, our cash on hand, our accounts receivable. All these things we can turn into cash quite quickly. Okay, but the other side of liquidity is our liabilities. So current assets divided by current liabilities. And these are things that we need to pay off quickly. So it's the other side of this fence. This could be our credit card bills, our overdrafts, which have high interest. It could be our accounts payable that we have to pay. We might have an account with someone else. Okay, so what you want here, or the acceptable rate value, is 2 to 1. I want double the amount of current assets compared to my current liabilities. That's a healthy position to cover your liabilities. The second part is accounts receivable turnover ratio. Now, that is to do with efficiency. And essentially we want a higher accounts receivable turnover ratio, though there is two parts of this that you do need to understand. Step 1 is actually calculating the ratio. And the ratio is sales over accounts receivable. Now some questions will ask you to calculate the days. And this is where we get our answer and use the answer to divide 365. So this is on average how long it takes for us to get our money back. Okay, so we do want a higher number to reduce the days. So with this in mind, we want a higher current ratio. So it can only be B or D now. And we want a higher accounts receivable turnover ratio. So answer is D. Question 2 from 2014. A business plan to increase its market share by merging with a competitor. I don't really want to waste time on this. This is one of the questions you would do during reading time. Use your fingernails, mark it off. Okay? When you merge, you want to grow your business. The answer is growth. Okay? That's the most correct one. You might think it's profitability because when you merge, you might make more money, but that's not your main goal. You try and grow your business. Okay, so that's a quick one. Same for question 10. Which of the following will be found on an income statement? Let's think about what we have on the income statement itself. So we always have revenue. Okay, that's all our sales coming in. 2, we have our COGS. So our stock is a factor of that. 3, from these two, we can calculate gross profit. 4, we have revenue. And it's not revenue, expenses. And the last one, from our gross profit and expenses, we get net profit. Okay, so something you do need to be aware of, the difference between the net profit ratio and gross profit ratio is the expenses ratio, just like how in here, the difference between net profit and gross profit is expenses. Something to think about down the track. But obviously we're looking here, is accounts payable here, no gross profit over here, so answer is B. Intangibles, that's part of the balance sheet. Net assets, part of the balance sheet. Okay, so we've done 3 questions already. It's taken us next to no time. We're going to move forward to 2014, question 19 and 20. This is the one we had a bit of trouble in class. Okay, first one's quite simple. Which of the following statements is true about liquidity for Carey's warehouse? So liquidity is looking at our current ratio. Okay, so that's our equation. And let's try to calculate that. So current ratio equals current assets over current liabilities. So let's sub this in. Current assets equals 1500 over current liabilities 1000 equals 1.5 to 1. That is our answer for 2014. Now this question is asking us, is it better than industry average or not? Okay, now our current ratio, we want, like I said before, goal equals 2.2 to 1. I want double the amount of current assets to current liabilities. Is this better than industry average of 1 to 1? Yes. So it's better than industry average. Now let's look at our 2013 data. And that's 1.25 to 1. So it's better as well as improved. So question 19 is A. Question 20 is a tricky one, okay? And this actually requires us to make a balance sheet. So I'm going to get rid of this up here. We're going to actually sub all these figures in to our little balance sheet. So we know it's assets equals liabilities plus OE, owner's equity. So we use our liabilities, you use our own equity to pay for our assets. That's how it is. So we know our current assets are 1500. Our current liabilities are 8500. That gives us a total of assets of 10,000. Our liabilities are currently 1000 plus 6,000 equals 7,000 in liabilities. And that would mean it's 3,000 for owner's equity, total 10,000 as well. So we balance it. Now we're going to look at our gearing. So that is our owner's equity, our liabilities over equity. Okay, so how much of what we have, that's a ratio of how much we've borrowed to compare to how much we have already. So let's try and figure out 2014 answer. Okay, so we know our equation because it's given to us, total liabilities over total equity. So we know liabilities 7,000 over owner's equity 3 over 3,000. Okay, so that gives us an answer of 2.33 to 1. Now, 2.33 is very high. You do not want to more than double the amount in debt in terms of how much you actually put in. Okay, that's not a really good geared business. We really want that a lot lower because if things happen, we don't really have enough money to pay off our debts well. So 2.33 is our 2014 answer. 2013 is debt to equity 1.5. And the industry average, that is 1 to 1. Okay, so is it better industry average? No, it's far worse. It's worse than industry average. Has it worsened since 2013? Yes. So answer is D. Okay, 2015, question 16 and 17. Okay, so this question is asking for a net profit ratio. We've been given our sales, COGS, gross profit, expenses. So pretty much we just need to add our net profit. Pretty simple to calculate. We get our gross profit minus our expenses, so that'll be 30,000 for 2014. In 2015, 100 minus 20 equals 80,000. Okay, so what is the net profit ratio for 2014? Okay, net profit is 30 over 150, which is equal to 20%. That was pretty simple maths. Now, this is going to get a little bit harder. Okay, and we're going to refer to the gross profit ratio, expenses ratio. Expenses pretty much signifies the difference between gross profit and net profit ratio. So we will calculate our gross profit ratio, our net profit ratio, 2013, and I'll put 2014 on the grey. Okay, so 14 and 15, sorry. Gross profit ratio, let's calculate it. So it's our gross profit, 50 over 150 equals 0.33. So that represents for every dollar spent for gross profit, we don't think about expenses, we make 0.33%. For 2015, it is 100 over 200 equals 0.5 to 1. So for gross profit ratio, 2014 to 15 looks like it's improved. Now, net profit ratio, expenses ratio. Let's calculate that. So expenses is 20 over 150. And that would be, let's calculate that. That's 13%. 2015, that is 20 over 200, 0.1, 0.13. So our expenses have decreased. Okay, so what we do want to really emphasize is for gross profit ratio, higher is better. We're making more money on our gross profit. For expenses ratio, conversely, lower is better. So our expenses have gone down in terms of our sales. So it's gone from 0.13 to 0.1. So that's better. And that is better. So in 2017, it's also improved in expenses. So answer is A for question 17. Okay. Again, 2016 question 4, easy dead giveaway. Some of you should do in multiple choice in reading time. Solvency. What is solvency? It's to avoid gearing our liabilities over equity. Okay, is it a short-term thing? No, because that's our current ratio. So it's our long-term financial commitments. It's our gearing, i.e. that is our to our owner's equity. Liabilities to equity. Okay, so our debt to equity ratio. That's pretty simple. 2016 done. Let's do question 10. Cash flow statement. Pretty simple. Year 11 work. So we now opening balance is 4,000. Our flow here is plus 6, so we get 10,000. We add 20,000 on, 30,000, but we minus 50. So we get minus 20,000. Add another 20,000 on, but we minus 24. It's minus 24,000. Answer for April, minus 24,000. Pretty simple. Okay, so questions 11, 12. This is about the balance sheet, equity, and the current ratio. So we're going to first do question 11. If Steve is a sole trader, how much equity does he have in the business? This part, just ignore it. It doesn't really make a difference. It could be as shareholder equity. Doesn't matter. We just know that there's equity. So we just add these together. So 22,700 to 12,800. That is 35,500. Quick maths. But now let's do the current ratio. We need to find out our current assets to current liabilities. We also have something missing here, so we've got to really calculate our current assets by balancing our balance sheet. So to do that, we need to add everything together. So now it's 35,500. Total plus OE equals 146,000. Okay, so this has to equal 146,000 as well for balance sheet to balance. All these together equals 143, so that equals 3,000. That gives us an opportunity to calculate our current ratio now. Okay, so our current ratio is to see our liquidity. We want 2 to 1. Industry standard here is 1.9 to 1, but current ratio 2 to 1 equals good. So let's put our current assets in, and we have that as 21,000 divided by our current liabilities as 10,500. That equals 2 to 1. Okay, we have 2. So we know our good rate is 2 to 1. We know our industry standard is 1.9 to 1. Is that too high? No. Anything that's too high is probably 4 to 1, or anything more than 3.5. Anything lower is less than 1 to 1, and that's bad. So it's not too high, it's not dangerously low, and I've just calculated, so it's B. It's a very acceptable rate being 2 to 1. That's what we want. Okay, now we're going to do question 19. And this is showing financial data for 2 businesses. Okay, so we're going to look at which of the following is correct in terms of our net profit ratio and our accounts receivable turnover ratio. Again, it's a double negative, but this one has very specific literacy requirements, and it can be a little bit confusing if you can make a silly mistake. So first off, let's calculate the net profit ratio. Okay, it's provided for you again. So net profit over sales. NPR, let's do A, let's do B. Net profit ratio for A is 400,000 over 1.6 million. That equals 0.25. For country B, it is 400,000 over 2.8 million, and that equals 0.14. So we will redetermine net profit ratio is better for A. A is a more profitable business, so let's mark it down. Now let's do part B. Accounts receivable turnover ratio. Do A, do B. So it's sales divided by accounts receivable. It's given to you again. So country A is 1.6 million divided by accounts receivable 200,000. That gives me an answer of, just give me one moment. And that would be an answer of 8. And here, accounts receivable turnover ratio, high is better. And we should already know for net profit, higher is better as well. Okay, so both of them. For country B, let's put it down. 2.8 million over $250,000. So 2.8 million over 250,000, and we get equals 11.2. So country B is better here. But this is the tricky part. We know country B is better, but the literacy here is a little bit confusing. So you should take your time to read it. Business A is more profitable, but less efficient. That is the correct answer. Okay, on to question 12. The efficiency of a business can be determined by which of the following? Gross profit ratio. That looks at profitability. Value of current assets, value of current liabilities. We can say that is the current ratio, which is also our liquidity. So accounts receivable turnover ratio, that's efficiency. How quickly we get our debts back. Okay, so the answer is D. Okay, question 17. The expenses ratio is always, which one? A, the difference between the net profit ratio and gross profit ratio. B, the difference between sales and gross profit. C, greater than the gross profit ratio. D, greater than the net profit ratio. Now, pay attention closely. We got to remember our equation for net profit. What does it consist of? First, you got gross profit. once we have gross profit, what do we do to get our net profit? Minus expenses. Equals net profit. So, obviously, this would mean that the answer is the difference between gross profit and net profit. I touched on that earlier before as well on a different question. Okay, but it just requires you to know the equation for net profit. Question 20. A little bit of maths. Okay, we know our ratios over here. Which row in the following table shows the sales and net profit for a business? We've been given the net profit ratio as 66.7%. So 66.67. For gross profit. So our gross profit of 400,000 equals 66.67% of sales. Now, you don't really need to be a genius to figure out what our sales would be. Okay? So 66.67 is 2/3. An extra third, that would be 600,000. That's pretty simple. So we know our sales is one of these now. Okay, we can just sub in the rest. COGS will be 200,000. Now, we gotta figure out our net profit. Okay, if we know our gross profit is 400,000 of 600,000 in sales, our net profit is 50% of 600,000. Okay, so what is 50% of 600,000? I'm pretty sure that it's 300,000. So that would give us the answer of D. Now we're on the home stretch. We're going to do question 2018, questions 19 and 20. First off, what is the gross profit ratio of this business? Gross profit ratio, we need our sales and we need our gross profit, which we can calculate with our COGS. $600,000 minus 200,000 equals 400,000. So gross profit ratio equals 400,000 divided by 600,000 equals 0.67 to 1 or 67%. So for every dollar, you're making 67% profit on our gross sales. Now let's do question 20. This is asking for a number of days the business takes to collect its debt. Now, the accounts receivable turnover ratio will give you the ratio in and of itself, but we need to divide that number. We could use that number to divide 365 to get a day. Okay, so let's start this now. Let's get the ratio. Our accounts receivable is 41,000. So summing it in, it's 600,000 divided by 41,000 equals 600,000. Let me just do this. Equals 14.63. Now we gotta use that number to divide 365. Which should be 24.95 days. Now, there's an easier way to do it, okay? Well, it's just skipping a step. we can just literally, if you are looking for days, 365 divided by brackets and our accounts receivable turnover ratio. 600,000 divided by 41,000, and that will give you the same answer. Okay, so that's all the multiple choice questions. Now we do have a few for short answer, and we're going to do 2012, question 22, A, B, and C only. Okay, so we're going to be interpreting stimulus, and this is dead easy. Give away 2 marks each. Calculate the current ratio, and they even give you the equations. So current assets, let's figure that out. 35,000 divided by current liabilities, 14,000. Part of this you need to figure out, you got to show you're working. So 35,000 divided by 14,000, that gives me 2.5 to 1. Okay, you can show this as a percentage or a ratio. And our last one here, same thing, total liabilities to total equity. Okay, debt to equity ratio. Total liabilities, put these together, 34,000. Our total equity, 34,000. So we go 34,000 divided by 34,000. You don't need to be a genius to do this maths. It equals 1 to 1. And that's our answer. Okay, and that will give you 2 marks, 2 marks. You show you're working, you get the answer. Now, here is your ability to interpret. Okay, what does a debt to equity ratio really mean? And really, we're looking at our gearing and our solvency. So, okay, we got to break this down. What would that really mean and why it's important? Okay, so our debt to equity ratio really talks about how a business relies on debt to finance itself. Okay, so that's probably an introduction. We're going to start referring to gearing and solvency. So this is an indication of how solvent the business is and how it's geared itself. Why is this important is because on profitability, ability to repay debts, having available capital to use for investment. Or it's important to avoid getting in too much debt. So we can call this possibly a debt trap situation. So this is where a business may borrow money, and in order to pay it back, they might need to borrow more, and it's a spiral. Okay, so that is essentially our answers. Hopefully you enjoy these videos. I don't know if they're helpful. Hopefully you watch them and we see how we go with this. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your break and I'll see you guys soon.